Are you tired of taking blurry photos with your iPhone? If so, you're definitely not alone. Most iPhone users get blurry photos more often than they should, but it doesn't have to be that way. My name is Emil Pakarklis. I'm the founder of iPhone Photography School, and in this video I'll share with you 5 simple tricks so that you'll never take blurry iPhone photos again. Now, if you can't hear me, please tap on this video to turn on the sound, and then we can get started. One of the most common reasons iPhone photos end up blurry is because the focus is not set correctly. So how do you set focus on the iPhone? Actually, it's really simple. Let me show you how to do it. So when you first open the camera app of the iPhone, you'll see that the iPhone has already picked somewhat of an average focus for this photo. And we have these beautiful flowers in the foreground, as well as the street buildings in the background, but neither of them is really in focus because the iPhone has tried to make sure that as many parts of the photo as possible are in focus, and as a result, nothing is really in focus. So in order to fix that, all you have to do is use your finger and tap it on the screen where you want the focus to be. So right now, I'm going to tap on this flower in the foreground, and you'll see this yellow box appear, and that means that the focus is now set on the flowers in the foreground. Now, if I want to set the focus on the buildings in the background instead, all I have to do is tap my finger on these buildings in the background, and you'll see that now these buildings are in focus, but the flowers in the foreground are no longer sharp. Now, when I set the focus here on these buildings in the background, the image also became a little bit darker, and that's because when you're setting focus, you're also adjusting how dark or how bright the photo is going to be. So if that's a problem, it's really easy to fix, and all you have to do is simply swipe your finger up or down the screen like this, and you can make the photo darker or brighter if you need to do that. So now that I'm happy with both focus and exposure, I'm going to go ahead and take another photo, and if we compare these two photos side by side, you'll see that in the first photo, the flowers in the foreground are nice and sharp, but the buildings in the background are out of focus. While in the second photo, the buildings in the background are in focus, but the flowers in the foreground are no longer sharp. So the bottom line is this: if you want to make sure that your iPhone photos turn out great, you should always set the focus yourself. Otherwise, you're leaving your photos up to chance. Sometimes they'll work out, at other times they won't, but you will not get consistent results. Now, the technique I just shared with you works really great, but there's one problem. Every time you take a shot, or every time something changes in the scene, the iPhone will automatically reset back to autofocus, and whatever changes you made to focus and exposure will simply disappear. Now, obviously it's a problem, especially if you want to take several photos where the focus is the same, but luckily there's a very easy way to fix that, and that is by locking the focus. So let me show you how to do that. So in order to lock the focus, all you have to do is simply tap and hold your finger where you want the focus to be set. So I want to set the focus on this wall in the background, so I'm going to simply tap and hold my finger there for a couple of seconds until the letters A, E, A, F lock appear at the top of the screen. And that tells me that both focus and exposure are now locked. And no matter how many photos I take, and no matter what kind of changes happen in the scene, I can be confident that the focus will remain unchanged until I switch it back off. Now, this technique is particularly useful when you're expecting a great photo opportunity and you want to be prepared in advance. For example, I'm sitting on the side of this little beautiful street, and I know that eventually some people will walk past me, and when that happens, I want to be ready to take the photo. And because of that, I'm locking the focus in advance, and I'm going to already frame the shot, and I'll shoot it through this beautiful green grass in the foreground so that my subjects will be partially obscured. So now I simply have to sit here and wait until someone walks past me. Okay, so now I think the moment is right. So I'm going to take several photos, and you can see that no matter how many photos I take, the focus remains locked, and the beautiful green grass in the foreground is still blurred out. And these are the kind of photos I can only take by locking the focus of my iPhone. Now, besides incorrectly set focus, one of the most common reasons why your iPhone photos end up blurry is called motion blur. And motion blur becomes a real problem when you're shooting in low light situations or indoors. Now, the reason motion blur is a problem in low light is because in low light, the shutter of your iPhone has to stay open for longer to let in the same amount of light. But any movement while the shutter is open results in blurry photos. And because of that, it's really important that in low light situations you hold your iPhone as steady as possible. So let me quickly show you what happens when you're shooting in low light and the iPhone is shaking. Now, as you can see, the photo we just took is really blurry, and obviously that's not what we want. So let me show you how to correctly hold the iPhone to keep it as steady as possible. Now, over the years, I've experimented with many different grip styles, and I can honestly tell you that this one is the best one. So, if you're right-handed, like I am, you want to start by placing your left palm in front of you like this. Then, you place your iPhone in the middle of your palm, like so, and you want to use your thumb to support one side of the iPhone, and your little finger to support the other side of the iPhone. And the three fingers stay at the back of the iPhone to support it that way. Using this grip, you can quickly switch between portrait and landscape orientation, or you can move the iPhone in any way you want, and no matter what you do, the iPhone isn't gonna drop. It's a very steady grip. Then, you can use your right hand to further support the iPhone from below, and now you're actually using two hands to keep the iPhone steady. And finally, you want to use the thumb of your right hand to adjust any settings on the screen or to gently press the shutter. And this is how you can hold your iPhone as steady as possible. Now, if conditions permit, you can further stabilize your body and your hands by leaning against a vertical wall like this, or alternatively, you can support your hands against a horizontal surface. For example, right now, I am supporting my hands against my knee, and my knee isn't moving much, and because of that, I can get an even steadier shot. So now, let's take another test photo, this time trying to keep the iPhone as steady as possible. Now, if we look at the photo we just took, you'll see how sharp it is, and if we compare the two images side by side, you'll see how important it is to keep your iPhone as steady as possible. Now, when you're shooting in low light conditions, it's not enough to simply keep your iPhone steady. If you want your photos to be perfectly sharp, it's also important that whatever you're taking a photo of is also steady. For example, now I'm going to take a portrait photo of my wife and our beautiful baby, but as it happens with children, they're moving a lot. And as they keep moving around, and as I try to take photos, these photos don't turn out that sharp. And that's because motion blur also works the same way if my subjects are moving. However, if I can ask them to remain perfectly still for just a moment, so there's absolutely no movement of any kind, and if I can catch a still moment, and if I can then take a photo, then that photo is going to be substantially sharper. So the bottom line is this: in low light conditions, if you want your photos to be perfectly sharp, you have to make sure that you hold your iPhone steady and that whatever you're taking a photo of also isn't moving. If those two things happen, then you can be sure that your photos will end up sharp. And finally, another quick tip I have for you is to always keep the lens of your iPhone clean. Now, this may sound obvious, but unless the lens of your iPhone is completely clean, your photos will not be as sharp or as clear as they should be. So, how do you clean the lens of your iPhone? Actually, it's really simple. The way I do it is simply using my t-shirt or my sweater to gently rub the lens like so. Now, you don't want to press too hard, and you want to be really careful if there's any sand on the lens. Because if there's sand on the lens, and if you then rub it, there's a chance you might scratch the lens, and that's not good. So if you suspect there might be sand or something else that could scratch the lens, all you have to do is simply blow air on the lens using your mouth like so. And when all the sand is gone, you can then safely clean it using your t-shirt. Just don't do it too hard, and get in the habit of always checking whether your lens is clean before you start shooting. Because if the lens is not clean, your photos will not look good. Now, as you can see from the techniques I just shared, the iPhone camera looks really simple on the surface. But when you start digging deeper, it's really not that simple. There are so many hidden camera features and camera settings that you probably don't know about, and I could only share a handful of them in a short video like this. And to make things worse, it's not enough to simply learn about all the different iPhone camera features. You also have to understand how to use each one of them in different photography scenarios. We're talking about different light conditions, different photography subjects, and even different genres and styles of photography. But here's the good news. Once you really understand iPhone photography, you'll be able to take the kind of photos that nobody would even believe were taken with the iPhone. And that's why I created iPhone Photo Academy, which is an online course teaching you everything there's to know about iPhone photography. So right next to this video, you'll find more information about my full iPhone Photo Academy course. If you'd like to use your iPhone to take stunning photos that you'll be proud to look at many years later, and if you'd like to do it without having to carry your bulky camera, then please take a look at my full iPhone Photo Academy course. There's more information right next to this video, so take a look, and I really hope to see you there.